My name is Chuck Fawns.
My name is Marsha Fawns.
My involvement in Unitarian Universalism goes back to the mid-70s, which means that basically I've been involved in one form or another for about 45 years.
My involvement with Unitarian Universalism began in the late 70s, so that would be about 40 some years myself. When I found Unitarianism, it was so important because I realized that my idealism and the values I had about how to live, how to be, were already being practiced and encouraged in a religious community. And when I found Unitarianism in Dallas, Texas, so many years ago, it just helped me become more myself. It was a very important part of my whole philosophical approach to being in the world, and I had a wonderful community of people that I became involved with very, very early on.
We moved to Taos in 2001, and we knew there wasn't a Unitarian church here. So we tried several of the churches that were here, and that worked fairly well for a few months, but then we began to really miss having the kind of system, support, and philosophy that we were used to in our church that we came from back in Dallas. So we decided that it was time to try to figure out what we could do about that. During that same time period, we kind of explored with other friends that we had made early on to see what their basic spiritual and philosophical bent was, and we found that we had a few people that would be supportive of that.
So then there followed a long period of time where we worked actually with the UU organization and explored what it would take, and we talked to people and we held meetings, and that went on for about a year and a half?
Not quite that long. We started talking sometime in 2004, and we actually had our first service in April of 2005, so it was roughly a year.
A lot of meetings.
A lot of meetings, right. The Unitarian congregation has changed a lot over the years since we had that first meeting in 2005. And I think when we look back, it was just, a few people. There were the two of us, 4 or 5 people, some friends, and then occasionally when we met, there'd be the two of us, and that would be it. So we had to decide from time to time over those early years, is it time to throw in the towel? We connected with the Denver office of the Mountain, which was the Mountain District of the Unitarian congregations at that time. And there was a woman who was very interested in us getting off the ground. And she gave us a lot of moral support, a lot of information. And one of the things that was a big turnaround was one of her good friends was a Unitarian minister who was looking for a place to retire. And that was the Reverend Ann Heller. And Ann came here and actually settled and became our field minister for several years. And that was one of the things that helped us really get the first impetus going.
The space we were originally in was one big room and a bathroom and a kitchen off to it, and that we had to kind of create the space for every service. So one of the people that had been coming had a hogan that he had built in his backyard area, so he said, you can use the hogan. So for, what was it, about 2 years?
About 2 years.
About 2 years, we met in a hogan.
And then moved on to the Presbyterian church down in Ranchos. And we're down there for a number of years until we really felt like we had outgrown it. And so we moved into the lodge where we are meeting now. Always renting though. We've never felt like it was appropriate at our size and our budget to be able to purchase a place that would be permanent for us. We struggled for many years with a fairly minimal budget, and so part of our way of pulling everything together was to really look outside of this community to see if we could get some support someplace else. So the first place we looked was at our former church in Dallas, the first Unitarian Church of Dallas. And we received a small amount of money, but it was from the minister's discretionary fund. And it really was just enough of a boost to really help us hire a few people to speak for a few Sundays. And that was again a way of giving us a little more traction. Later on, we worked with Ann Heller, our film minister, and developed a proposal for a grant that went to the district here in, at that time it was in Denver, and we were able to get that grant for several $1,000s. That was a big boost, and it really, really helped us a lot. Also, we have good friends who are in Durango and are part of the Durango Unitarian congregation, and they were down here quite a bit, going skiing with us and various other kinds of activities. But because they're Unitarians, and he has a really good workshop, a woodworking shop, they were able to build a lectern for us and donated that to us. And since then, he also built a holder for our name tags. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and so again, we've been very fortunate in being able to tap into sometimes relatively small things, but just things that would really boost us in terms of being able to have the finances that we needed.
A woman also designed our chalice for us as a gift. She's a well-known clay person here in Taos, and she understood the importance of having a chalice, and I don't think she'd ever done anything quite like that before, but she made a chalice for us. And the grant that you were talking about that we got that was from the Unitarian congregation actually purchased our first hymnals for us, mm-hmm. which was, each of these little steps along the way made us feel more like a real growing congregation of people, and that's been very important to us.
I think it's possible that we will grow. I think we will grow slowly. I think we will grow in ways that are appropriate for this community. I don't see a problem with that.
The pieces that I think I've mentioned before is that we empower each other. I think being around each other and finding out all the ways people are doing things in this community, all the talents that are being shared, it makes you feel like, well, I can do this. Whereas if you hadn't been around the people doing that, you would be far more reticent to feel you had the strength to do it or the support to do it. So I hope we can just continue to do all those kinds of things for each other, and in times that we have to say our trouble, that we can work together to make changes in the world as we're able.
When I go into our service on a Sunday, or I sit with a circle on an alternate Sunday, or I see some thing that we're doing in the community, it basically reinforces my belief in humanity. It reinforces not what we have done, what I have done, or anything like that. It makes me feel good to see that there are good people out there, and that they have decided to express their concerns and their values through the congregation that we have there now. Over and over, particularly in the circles, I hear people say, I didn't know this kind of thing existed. And now I feel like I have come home. I mean, that's powerful. That's powerful.
Well, to me, there's an authenticity in people and how we share and how we respect each other's differences, but really have a sense of common humanity. In the women's group, some of the things we've shared, there's like people are not afraid to say how vulnerable they have felt, how they've suffered, how confused, how hard certain situations have been for them. And in general, being cool, controlled, and confident is the American way. And I think what we get by being around people that have the Unitarian values, we're real with each other in an amazing, trusting, supportive way that makes such a difference inside, subtly, over and over, how you feel about facing your life, whatever's going on. You know, I just really do feel that. Because we have a Unitarian congregation that we can go to, I don't feel alone. I don't feel as overwhelmed by some of the challenges that are going on nationally and internationally. I feel like I know really good, wonderful people.
I guess it was when we sang the first time as a real strong congregation, the Spirit of Life, and Marsha and I both looked at each other and cried.
Yeah, yeah.
It was that moving. It was that moving. Yeah.
I hit the wrong button.
Rachel, why did you do it?
Okay.
Wave.
Wave. Say hi, whatever. This is home movies going on here, folks.